Wheels keep turning.
Hey, welcome back to the second hour of Lovebabz, Lovetalk. I'm Babz Rawls-Ivy. It is Enroue Day. I can guarantee you Enroue will be here at least 2 times a month. And folks are looking forward to you, like Cormac and
Hello, everybody.
Robert Irizarry. And there's a bunch of folks who really, there's a bunch of folks who let me know that they enjoy you being on the show. So
good.
I just thought you should know that. So
Thanks.
good morning. How are you?
I'm good. I'm a little sleepy. I went to bed
too.
just because, but I'm good.
I don't know what every morning this week I've been a little sleepy. I mean, I run the streets all hours of the night and day, but that never really affected me before. So I don't know what this is. The times they are changing.
Times they are changing. Well, yes, which they do. I mean, that's just the nature of living.
Yes. Do you want to get us grounded with a prayer?
Sure.
Sounds good. That. I always feel better with that.
So again, this is a Yoruba ancestor chant to our ancestors, and the key terms are Baba, which means like our honored male lineage or male family members. Yeye, which is like honored female lineage. I mean, Yeye can be used, and Baba can be used not just for those who've passed, but in the context of ancestor reverence. That's what we mean. That kind of honored men, honored women, and then Egungun is a general term for ancestors. So those you'll hear in this chant. And then Ashe, which is a word that holds a lot of meanings. It both means, we say that at the end of prayers, like let this be so, Ashe, let it be so. It means also to manifest things, so things from the unseen world or the spirit world or even ideas, right? Those are unseen. To manifest those into the physical world is also what Ashe means, as well as the like authority or spiritual force that makes something, right? So the Ashe of the ocean is different. The energy, that force of the ocean is different than the Ashe of the mountain, right? So there are these different qualities. So those are the terms in this chant. And then Iba, which basically means to pay homage to or honor. And so the chant is, we honor our Babas, honor those elder men. We honor Yeyes, we honor those elder women, Iba, Egungun, all of our ancestors. So we honor them for the Ashe that they have passed on to us. And that Ashe that they have passed on to us, we are using it. So that's the chant. And so you'll listen for those things. And so it's, I love it. I love the way it sounds. I love singing it. But also this piece around honoring them for what they have given to me. Right? I'm the one who's alive now. And then there's an accountability of like, oh, I'm not just honoring it and like, what a wonderful idea, but I'm utilizing it. I'm using it today. I'm contributing to this positive cycle of these things getting passed down. Ba 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 tofu ashe o. Ba 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 tofu ashe. Ba 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 tofu ashe o. Ba 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 tofu ashe. Ashe te fuan lan lo yo. Ba 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 tofu ashe. Ba ye ye tofu ashe o. Ba ye ye tofu ashe. Ba ye ye tofu ashe o. Ba ye ye tofu ashe. Ashe te fuan lan lo yo. Ba ye ye tofu ashe. Iba egungun tofu ashe o. Iba egungun tó fún wa ṣe. Ìbà egungun tó fún wa ṣe o. Ìbà egungun tó fún wa ṣe. Àṣetẹ̀ fún wa là ń lò yìí o. Ìbà egungun tó fún wa ṣe. Ìbà egungun tó fún wa ṣe. Ìbà egungun tó fún wa ṣe. Àṣẹ.
Shay. Now we're centered.
We're here. Now we're present.
Now we're present. We're present. I believe you were at Parable of the Sower last night.
I was there 2 nights ago. Tuesday
Okay. What did you think? Did you love it or like it or?
I really enjoyed it. I read lots of Octavia Butler years and years and years ago, and I think Toshi Reagan's opera of it is brilliant, like this kind of brilliant rendition, and the singing, the performances, the messages that run through it, and I think something that's I think more important is something that's happening even around this as it's shown up here in New Haven, and will kind of continue to, is this piece that Toshi's helped to develop, is this thing called the parable path.
Mm-hmm.
And so as this opera and performance has gone in different cities, there's encouragement for those communities to be developing things and showcasing things and coming together around the themes that have come up that are present in that work. And so I think that more so of there's this performance, but also like, well, it's really a call. So how are we going to live? Right. And I think the pieces that kind of bookend it, the performance Tuesday, Toshi came out and was like, are you taking care of yourselves? Are you taking care of each other? Right. And there's first it's like, right? And then people get a little bit more excited. But that's really the call, and that's change, right, being central to it, which for me is powerful because the notion of like, God has changed or the divine has changed or like everything has changed is indigenous perspective. I mean, that's fundamental.
That's what I thought. I was hoping you would make that leap.
It's and so if you look at the thread of like indigeneity, kind of people of African heritage, right? So as we are in this country, going from our indigenous roots to then what we've had to do in this country because of the institution of slavery, right? Then kind of coming into Christianity and the church. And then what that play then shows is the kind of coming out of that tradition into this other piece about actually God is not just God and is kind of stable and never changing, but it's actually change. And these other notions of what the divine is and how to be in relationship with that. So, but if you're not aware that this actually has these original roots, it kind of seems as if it's this new thing, right? And I think what's been powerful for me is, we not kind of come from these roots and these traditions that are like way far off and ancient, but they're actually alive and practiced today. There's actually a continuity in that. And we, in this country, have been made to forget and continue to forget, right? There's a been made to, and then there's, there are people and ways that people are like, no, that's not where I come from. I'm kind of here and moving forward. And so I think that notion of change from the Yoruba perspective is like, that's life. Like life has changed and kind of chaos in that way. And that's just the norm. And if we want the peace that we are seeking, and not just peace as in terms of like no war, but if we want life to be relevant for us, have the relationships we want, right? Live how we want to live, have the health that we want, we have to make sacrifices and choices and nourish some things and not other things in order for that to happen. And that's just fundamental to this tradition. And so I appreciate that, the kind of highlighting of this piece around change. And I did when I first read Parable of the Sower and then Parable of the Talents, the second book of this.
Mm-hmm.
was just really encouraging, and was like, yes, that is the way kind of things are. And I think it can land as different, right? As just this kind of forward thinking or future thinking thing, as actually opposed to like, oh, this is actually where we come from, and where we can still be and still inhabit. And there are actually practices and traditions and ways of being that foster that, which help to foster our liberation, even as we're still in these same circumstances of systems that we're in and that are oppressive, that can be nurturing, but that are also have been historically and continue to be oppressive for many, many people.
I'm always struck by how Octavia Butler saw so deeply into the future without knowing the future. Do you know what I mean? Like, she wrote this thing, and it's so, I remember thinking it was so relevant then, and now when I look back on it and in experiencing the opera, how relevant it is, more so now than ever, I think. And this need, watching the opera, there's people who are like, no, let's stay here and just secure here. And then here's this young sister saying, no, we have to move. Like, this is not gonna, and so you have that old song, We Shall Not Be Moved, which has sustained us. Historically, that song has sustained us, meaning that, you're not gonna just take us anywhere or whatever, but now up against new foes, new forces, change becomes what we have to do, forced to do. So I found that very sort of spiritual and awakening, and I think you're right, a clarion call to what, if we can hear it, it's a call to do exactly what she's saying, change and make a move.
This isn't to minimize Octavia Butler's brilliance at all, but like, that call has always been there.
Yes.
It's always been the, like, do we bend towards liberation and what that is, right? There's freedom, and there's this thing which we're perceiving as security, and this desire to, like, what is eternal? What are we going to hold on that's eternal, that's kind of never ending? And that comes from a particular mindset. Like, that's not an indigenous framework of, it's not like, okay, how do we create the thing that is going to last forever? Because people in relationship with the earth understand very clearly nothing lasts forever. And we as human beings are some of the most vulnerable creatures on this planet. Right? And so that piece around, and so you can then take that through different social movements, even as we hold up people in the civil rights movement, and what that movement was, there are so many people who were like, I don't know, I'm not quite convinced, right? We have this perception, right? Hindsight, like, everybody, it was this global movement and all. If it was, we'd all be freer.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of resistance from all kinds of people, right? People of color, people on margins, people in positions of power. Like, there was a lot of resistance to these pieces of what does liberation mean and change, right? And so even if you look at particular people around, Martin Luther King became much more of a threat when he was talking about, like, poverty and things on an international scale, right? That's kind of against Vietnam, and, like, how do we transform and address the way that wealth moves in this country? And already talking about, like, improving and undoing white supremacy and dealing with race relations was kind of, quote, bad enough, right? Big enough of a change to then start adding, like, oh, actually, liberation there's more. And, like, those are the ways that became much more threatening amongst a whole bunch of people, because that notion of, I want to be free so that I can have my piece of the pie of this, like, American dream. And that's the like, I want to be free to be in my gated community. I want to be freed with this. This is what privilege has been held up as. I want to be free to get that. And that's what we've been kind of assimilated into and sold into and consumed. And so these notions of like, maybe that's not it. Maybe this piece around change and transformation and what liberation is a little different. And up until, right, the wall comes down, there are plenty of folks like, no, it's gonna hold, right? We're gonna be okay. We're gonna get ours if we can just fortify these things, which is understandable. It's not saying that, it's not about blame. In some ways, it's not the blame, because like people want to be safe, right? People want to have themselves and those who they love be okay. But it also makes it hard to really see where things are at and what is then the logical outcome. The logical outcome of an unsustainable way of living is unsustainable, right? Which means we're not going to live. There's not kind of kicking the can down the road. There's no other, right? If I have all this garbage, there's not somewhere else to put it. If you have a house, you're in a finite space, like the earth, finite space. There's no away, actually, right? And that is a piece of a culture where just like, we'll just kind of give it to the other people, give it to them, put it over there where those people are, right? Where's the industrial waste put, right? And we don't see the cost of that. Where's the where the institutions that nobody wants to see, right? Not in my backyard. All of that gets part of this culture that we're in. And who suffers, who doesn't? Who has the means to be healthy? Can you afford to be healthy? Right, that's a crazy notion, really. Like fundamentally, that's a crazy notion. Why is that something I need to be able to afford, right? If I have more means, then I can be healthier?
It costs money to buy or invest or move towards health.
Mm-hmm. That's how we've set it up. That's how people here has been set up. These aren't just like the way it is, and it's hard to. Not that the change or the solution is easy either, because we're all embedded in this. We're all eating the same soup and breathing the same air, and as a human being on this planet, you look at how many different types of cultures there have been. They're countless. Like, all these are different ways for human beings to live. And for most of our time, it's actually been in a way that has been sustainable. And in a very short time, it has been in a way that's unsustainable, which has then caused massive damage and upheaval to our home, which now makes it not very sustainable. And adds more suffering to those already at the margins and more suffering.
Yes.
So, right, but not pleasant, right? Not pleasant to come to terms with that. And so there's this notion of like, well, if I got mine, I want to secure mine. And it's hard to then, this call of caring really for self and caring and loving other people, right? And how do we broaden that? So it's not just like those people on my team get it and those people not on my team don't get it. Can we be in this life in a way that's different? Let that be an aspiration. Let that be the thing we're seeking and trying to move towards versus like, I'm just going to secure my walls a little thicker. Get the sharp things on the top. Get the pokey things poking out, right? And the nice, beautiful things inside. Because that's not sustainable.
Clearly, it's not sustainable. Right. But humans try. I don't know what that is, but we try. We try to sort of protect, sustain the unsustainable. We put a lot of energy into that. I mean, that's why gated communities exist. That's why walls and fences exist. That's why, it costs a lot to live in certain places, because they're trying to sustain a modicum of safe, what they imagine safety is, and
Mhm.
success is, what prosperity is, whatever it
Mhm.
is, whatever the is.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But I think that there's more of that. It's just a good thing for people to investigate. Like there's more of that, which is what we've been presented as the only option. For you to be safe, you need to do this. For you to feel secure, it's about um, imagining and building this notion of solid ground, right? And if you instead understand that change is the ground, you have to approach it differently than if you think it's a big block of concrete. If it's like shifting sands, right? You got to be on it differently, right? Instead of, I just have to secure it even more, right? So that notion of, like when faced with our fragility, like none of us right now are getting out of this life alive, period. None of us right now are going to be alive. I'll say 200 years, right? So certainly a lot less, but I don't want to get into like, well, science could do a thing, right? So let's say 200 years, which is a tiny bit of time in terms of this planet, right? And so this culture fosters, do not look at that. Do not pay attention to that. Ignore that, right? Live big and loud now and ignore what's coming. As if there's the security there versus saying, okay, so that's going to happen. How do I live in a way that honors that? I'm going to have to get lost in it, but then honors that and recognizes, oh, this is actually a precious thing. And I'm a visitor here, right? I was born into something that existed already. I'm actually a visitor. So how can I, as a visitor, honor what's here, right? How can I come into this life as like, ooh, you don't walk into someone's house and just start behaving as if it's yours, right? Yet we born that there's this okay, I just get to do what I want. I'll chop that down and throw that away and pave that over and kick these people out, versus let me come into this, oh, what is really here? How can I not just fit in, but how can I be in harmony with what is? And it doesn't mean we don't change things, right? Or destroy things or create things. But can we do that in a way that understands that interrelatedness? That there's accountability.
Yes.
That there's accountability, right? That there's relationship and responsibility. Versus, I'm just going to get mine, and maybe a little bit for my kids, and that's kind of it. That's not just human, that's a certain type of mentality. And we have come to believe that is the only way, right? That, well, if I want security, right, I need to armor up. And there's a cost to armoring up, right? If I live in the world armored up, that also means I live in the world not being able to feel and connect in a way that's also about being a human.
Yeah. I think people forget that part. I do. Otherwise, it'd be the other way around.
We forget, and we are not taught it, right? So there's a forget, I just forgot, right? But there's also like, you look around this culture does not reinforce that value. It reinforces the opposite, right? Oh, I have some pain, I'm going to shut that down, numb it out, or turn it around onto somebody else. I feel scared, I'm going to make someone else feel scared, so then I can feel better. And those are short-term solutions, and they have long-term costs. So those are these pieces around how do we remember our personhood and the connections that we have with that which is already here, and try to navigate that well, right? Not blindly, because you can't just flip it around and be like, oh, okay, I'll just love everybody and open arms and walk around, right? Right? But how do we also
what do you mean what they do?
navigate what is also here and bring more of our kind of personhood into it? Like, that's this piece of liberation that we can't forget.
Yeah, he was
Oh, I can hear them in the office. So anyway,
Yeah, there's movement.
yes,
There's
movement.
always movement around.
Always.
But I think, this, it can be easy, I think, with this. So like with parable, it really ends actually, and the kind of next one begins with wild seed, right? With this finding of this place and land and an ability to build a different kind of community and live with each other in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that piece is really valuable. Like, so not to get kind of lost in the kind of apocalyptic nature, which can be the upheaval can be like the most forcing people to make the change, right? Upheaval, right? The person close to you passes away. There's upheaval. There's opportunity in there. And then it becomes, the choices, right? Well, am I going to shut down even more? Do I have to work harder to shut down? Or am I going to see and let myself feel and let this move through me the way grief does? Right? Can I kind of be with the change, or am I going to resist the change? And those are things that come up all the time, day to day, in really ordinary ways also. And the big upheavals, right? Pandemic. Oh, look at the circumstances. I can't operate the same way. I can't live the same way. Do I see what the opportunities are for some of the change and growth that can happen? Or is there just like a hunkering down? And I don't mean hunkering down like, or taking advantage of possibility as into the not being safe, but in terms of like skillfully understanding where the danger is and isn't. Right? And that's the navigating, right? Even in that opera, right? It's like the navigating, where is safety and where is danger, and we all just doing our best, and bringing people together so we can care for ourselves with each other and care for each other while being ourselves. Even as we're vulnerable.
Yes. I just thought the parable path was such a good tool to sort of think about our place in the world and how we are with each other, and how we move forward, and how interconnected we are. I mean, we are just all connected, and not to just humans, but to everything in the ecosystem.
Yes.
Animals and crops and the water and the air, and we are all those things. We are those things, and those things are us. And even though we like to separate ourselves out, we cannot. If one goes,
right,
it has devastating effect on everything.
Yes. And the illusion, right? So that's the illusion of kind of our exceptionalism, right? We are humans. We're the exceptions, right? That's a certain framework. It's like, if you believe humans to be the kind of exception, then the destruction of other things, it's all right, because we're the exception, so we get to choose. In a similar way that, like, under white supremacy, right, there's this exceptionalism, and then, like, so you look at what the doctrines were that led to Columbus and people coming over from Europe here, this exceptionalism, like, well, we are the exception. We are the ones who are connected to the divine, and those who we find are not. And so they can be not seen as human because they are not. Like, we're the exception. We're the standard. They are not. And so that we can do things to them. Right? And so that also dehumanizes the one believing that, because it's a lie. It's not reality, actually. And so the piece of the danger is when people kind of are believing that lie. Oh, I can get away with it just because. I deserve this just because. I can afford my health, so I should get it. And they shouldn't. Well, they can't. They just don't have the right job or aren't working hard because I think that. So that's just, everything is as it should be, right? And so that's a lie and inaccurate. and it has consequences. It means that those in the place of any kind of power are dehumanized in the exercising of that.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
And those on the receiving end are, from that perspective, dehumanized. Not that people have to internalize that dehumanization, but the circumstances become dehumanizing. And so then change and transformation between the other becomes the other and is maintained as the other. Right? Those people in parable, it wasn't as clear, I think, in the opera in the book, right? So the people who came and like burned that enclave and that haven down, right? They felt justified in it. Those inside were the other, right? And so like that notion of we're the humans, they're not, right? Unloading atrocities on them is okay because they're not as human as we are. And it's so easy to just like flip that perspective around. Oh, my flag is the one that should be on the hill, so I get to kick you down. No, I'm going to come up the hill and put my flag there. Now I get to kick you down. And that's all the same thing.
Yeah.
And so how do we change fundamentally that? Oh, maybe it's not my flag on the hill. Maybe it's something over here. It's not even trying to get back up that hill. I don't even know if that's where I need to be. There's a whole other planet. Maybe I can just do something over here, right? But this thinking creatively around how to be in this life, in this precious life that we have. How do we have the courage for ourselves and to support that courage in other people to maybe be here a little differently?
Yeah.
In a way that's really sustainable. Still got to be safe, right? Still got to eat, right? That's also where we make choices.
Okay. It is always a good time talking to you. It's always centering and grounding.
So one thing I'll say concretely, right? Not as like the solution for everything, but these pieces, right? As you engage in what we started with this ancestor chant, and you start to look at and engage with who your people are, and can you engage with them and feel their care and love and support for you? Can you be open to the love that they send, that they're sending to us, so that we can be here in this world differently? And that's also the part and parcel of what ancestor reverence is really about. Really be open to the complexity of who we are, right? What are the systems and cycles? What's that ashe that we want to honor and use, right? So that we can be in the relationship with all these forces here in a different way, in a way that's sustainable and connects with our purpose and connects with our wellness. And how do we heal the ways that it has shown up, those cycles, certain cycles have shown up that are not healthy, that we want to like, no, we're going to put that to the side. That's not the burden I need to carry now, right? That cycle of addiction, I'm going to break that now. I'm going to lean into where I get support so I can be in the world differently. So I can see and hear a little bit more skillfully about what's really here. Not just what I'm afraid might be coming at me, but what's really here.
Thank you.
Thanks, Babz.
It's a good conversation. It was on my heart and mind today to talk about a little bit about parable and its spiritual undertones or overtones, you know, and how clearly I can feel it and see it. So thank you.
Thank you,
So
Babz, for the time.
he'll be back because he comes on twice a month, y'all know. So just be prepared, look out for it.
Be prepared.
Be prepared, get ready. You know, they get their little notebooks, they write their notes, and you know,
Really, if folks have you know, questions or things they really want to like pinpoint, let me know. Let Babz
let
know.
us know. Let him know. Y'all know how to find Enroue. But if you don't want to reach out directly, you know, we're on all these
Don't be nervous.
mediums. So just leave messages wherever, and Harry will find them and get them. So, I mean, he will, because people.
And I'll just give you my email: Enroue, ENROUE, @healingandliberation.com.
Perfect.
It's all spelled out.
Okay. Thank you so
Okay,
much.
Thank you.
I'll see you soon.
All right, take care.
Thank you, Harry.
Thank you, Gary. Bye.
Mm-hmm.